let's talk about research. There are a lot of organizations that are willing to set forth a budget, create a team, and create and develop a full-on research center, usability lab, the whole nine. And there are some that are willing to take a hypothesis, build a few features, go to market with it. Regardless of your approach, there are some UX research methods that you should be mindful of, and we'll talk about that today. Let's do this. There's a lot of information about user research out there in the wild. Now, it really boils down to three core concepts of actual research. There are people who have dedicated entire teams, spent their entire lives, and developed a ton of methodology around this. I'm no expert, but in my experience, I've adopted and understood a good three really enriching core understandings about UX research, and we'll talk about it today. For companies out there really trying to move the needle for their product, research is required. Now, let's be real. There are some companies that are not willing to put the budget in place to gather the UX research, and there's some that are really willing to build entire usability labs around it. But regardless on what level or what organization you're tied to, research matters. We'll talk about a few things that you need to consider when doing research or even understanding research methodology. And the first sort of core principle I'll talk about is attitudinal versus behavioral research. Now, very similar to what the word describes, we'll talk about attitudinal. These are the things that consumers say, that they discuss, that they share. And you can really get a lot of the information from focus groups, which will communicate things from a personal level. You can gain that from interviews, talking one-on-one, being very direct and descriptive with your specific user base. You can also get feedback in various ways. That really has merit for the attitudinal side of things. From a behavioral side, it's what they actually do. So what are users actually doing when they're making a purchase decision or completing a task? These are all action-orientated things. You can gather information from ethnographic field studies. This is where you go out in the wild and you observe your consumers in your natural habitat using products or doing whatever you intend to solve the problem for. There's usability tests and labs. As I mentioned, some organizations really value that. And so they build entire programs around that. And then there's moderated and unmoderated user tests. These are usability studies where you arrange a group of your ideal consumers and you get feedback from them in a more facilitated way where you're asking open-ended questions. And then there's some where it's unmoderated, where you really put a user in front of a product and work with those findings from there. Now, let's just be mindful that those are two different types of approaches for yielding results. Attitudinal, what people say, versus behavioral, what people actually do. Now, underlining all of this is the next principle we'll talk about, and that's qualitative versus quantitative research. Now, just as the words mean, qualitative has everything to do with the quality, the more enriching side, the feelings of things. You can find this out and discover this in your research using open-ended questions, surveys, uncovering direct observations. All of these things really highlight feeling emotion from your ideal audience. Contrast to that is more of a quantitative approach to research. And this has everything to do with actual numbers, the measurements. And you can get these usually indirectly. from an analytics tool. You can get these from metrics derived based on actions or event triggers. A lot of these are inputs from what is happening. Now that's a really core understanding of qualitative, the quality of use and engagement versus the quantity, the number in which, the measurement of this. Very different from attitudinal, behavioral, but there's some correlation. And then the last core principle working through these UX research methods has everything to do with context. And context is it's an amazing thing once you understand it and the environment and the cases in which you're doing these research methods in. Like a relationship, it matters. Context matters. If you look at things from a use of product perspective, you're targeting your audience or ideal customer who are actually in the natural environment in which they're using the product or using the device. For example, if you're buying airplane tickets online and you're using your mobile device, I can safely say you're comfortable with doing that at home, on the couch, purchasing or browsing to find tickets. That's use in your natural product habitat. Versus me saying that I have the hypothesis of you trying to buy airline tickets while shopping for groceries or waiting for the deli to finish slicing your court cheeses. One has everything to do with your comfortability and use in the environment. One is saying because you can buy tickets from your mobile device, that assumes that you'll be doing that multitasking on a store errand. We focus on the use of product in the context. There's also a scripted way to understand context. And that's when you sort of navigate or have the consumer go through and complete a specific feature flow so that you can gain results from the type of task being completed. That's scripted. There's also moments where you're not using in product or in environment product. So there's a multitude of ways to look at this. The underlying core principle is to understand context. You want to understand context in the people you're dealing with and you're talking to, like a relationship. Similarly, you want to understand the context in which your users are actually using your product. That sets the stage for how you actually should design a better experience for them. Make your users feel way more comfortable doing what it is that they desire to do using your product. So we talked about a few things, attitudinal versus behavioral, and what the difference is from what people say and actually how they actually behave. We also talked about qualitative versus quantitative, how that data differs. And then we talked about context. Context is key. Once you understand the key reasons and the space and all of that for why someone would use your product and is using your application, you can design better experiences for them to become repeat consumers and ultimately tell others about your great product. So I hope that helps. If you want me to dive a little bit more on kind of setting up a moderate test or kind of building through some more user research models, I'd be happy to do so. As a matter of fact, I'll show you a really quick snippet of doing some ethnographic research when working with this agency to build a full-on application for a large book retailer. So just to give you context, we were working with a large book retailer and trying to understand two things. We went to the store to try to figure out what it was like to use and test their current app and what the actual students were experiencing. This is Alex, one of the lead project managers, and he helped me kind of do all of the test, ask questions, and he was a great resource to bring along.
You found your book. That was quick.
What was it? How long did the process take?
Right away. It was like,
This was pretty instant.
we found 0 results for that book.
So these are study aids and references? You
Yeah.
think you need to be in textbook?
Probably.
As you can see here, we're testing the existing functionality. This is exactly what the students would experience using the app. So while we're trying to build new features, We wanted to really encompass and solve the problem using the existing ways in which current students were actually doing it.
It's a law book, healthcare law. 0 results.
Interesting.
Coming up empty handed, man.
What about like just try to scan the back of one of these? Yeah. I want to see if there's a difference between the actual barcode. So, something's up. Ah, that's interesting. Digital download for Yuzu. Have you seen those? Have you seen these ads?
No,
There you go.
I have not.
Here, you'll see us looking through textbooks
Take a picture of that.
Yeah, I got. Oh,
and more to try to understand what the actual process flow was like.
I don't understand why it's not scanning.
And here was one of our breakthrough moments.
Do you have a signal or something?
Yeah.
Sorry about
Do you
that.
know? Actually, just a quick question. Do you know, like, when you're scanning for books on the app, is it common that a lot of the books won't be on the site?
We're currently transitioning from summer to fall. So right now we're still getting books in.
Gotcha.
So it'll a more full list will be like in about normally about the week before.
Got
so
it.
we generally will have like the whole stock.
Gotcha.
So they're readily available once you stock them all.
Yes, they're readily available once it's stocked, and it should be like almost immediately on the app or online. It's just once we have it in.
Got it.
Mhm.
Cool.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks so much.
Yep, no problem.
So that was a quick example of ethnographic research, kind of going out in the wild, seeing the users in their environment and asking questions, digging deeper, trying to find understanding with everything that is happening and what problem you're actually solving. So that's all I got. Glad, hopefully you found some use in watching this video and understanding the differences. I'm happy to share some of the things that I've done to give someone else a look at what it's like to do these things in real life. So hopefully that helps. If you felt this video was valuable at all, give it a thumbs up, share it, and consider subscribing for more content such as this. Also, I just want you to know that your life has color, so make sure you design it that way. And until next time, I'll see you in the next one. So I have a really, really troubling time talking about behavioral attitudinal. Do I have an attitude? You have an attitude. So there's this weird space with my enunciation. I'm ESL. English is my situational language.